Hi, this video is going to talk about how to solve a number in accounting. So you may be given a problem and you're asked to solve for something and you're not quite sure how to do it. So in this example, we're given a problem and we're asked to solve for purchases. What you may know is that you know how to solve for cost of goods sold, but you've never been told how to solve for purchases. This is very common in accounting. And what these sorts of problems are trying to do is to give you practice at using knowledge that you have to figure out something that you've never been asked for before. So if you look at a normal steps to solve a problem, you identify the problem. So the first thing you do in accounting is look at your question, and either at the beginning or the end of the problem, it'll tell you what you're trying to figure out. In this case, it says solve for purchases. So we're trying to solve for purchases. So then once we know what the problem is, we want to develop some alternatives. So the first thing you'd probably ask yourself is, well, do I have a formula for purchases? And you look back and you think and you say, no, not really. Never seen a formula for purchases. However, I have seen a formula to calculate cost of goods sold, which I'm given here. So you think about your formula to calculate cost of goods sold. It's beginning inventory plus purchases less ending inventory equals cost of goods sold. So when you think about these items in this formula, you realize that you have all of them except purchases. Well, from algebra, you know that you can solve for anything if you have one unknown. And that's what we have here, one unknown. All right, so a few more things just to note here is that you know what the word net means. Net just means, for example, if it's net sales, sales minus sales returns allowances minus sales discounts gets you to net sales. Likewise, net purchases is purchases less purchase discounts less purchase returns, and then you actually add freight in because freight in gets added to the cost of purchases. And then one other subtotal that you may need to know about is cost of goods available for sale, which is just all of the goods that you start with, which is your beginning inventory, plus your net purchases. So these are just some items to understand what the word net means, what the word cost of goods available for sale. All right, so we're given these items and we need to know purchases. So we go on to, let's select the best alternative. Well, the best alternative is put down everything that we know and figure out the item that we don't know. So here's what we know. We know the beginning inventory, they told us, is $37,950. We don't know purchases. We do know purchases, returns, and allowances, and freight in. And we know that if we knew purchases, we would use purchase, returns, allowances, and freight in to get us to net purchases. Then we would subtract out ending inventory, and that would get us to cost of goods sold. So at this point, what we know is net purchases, beginning inventory plus net purchases minus ending inventory gives us cost of goods sold. So we can put that into an equation. We would say beginning inventory plus net purchases less ending inventory equals cost of goods sold. So that is $37,950 plus X. X stands for our net purchases because we don't know what it is yet. Minus 50,600 equals 273,700. So then we can use algebra to solve. So I want X by itself. So I keep X on the left-hand side of the equal sign. X equals. Then I move everything to the right-hand side of the equal sign. So I move 37,950 to that side, so it becomes a minus. I move 50,600 to the other side, so it becomes a plus. And 273,700 is already on that side, so it stays this. So now I can just put it in my calculator. Negative 379,550 plus 50,600 plus 273,700, and that equals 286,350. That is my purchases. So I put in that number as my net purchases, 286,350. Okay, but they didn't ask me for net purchases. They asked me for purchases. So I come up here and I say, well, what minus 10,350 plus 13,800 gives me 286,350. So here I am needing a little bit more algebra. So what I'm saying here is that I know that my purchases minus my 10,350 plus my 13,800 equals 286,350. That's what I know. And so I can leave X on that side and move everything else over to the other side. So I can say X equals a positive 10,350, a minus 13,800. This is already the same number, and there I have it. So X equals 282,900. So that must be what my purchases equals. $282,900. Now, it says that I implement it. All right, I did that. And then, did the solution work? So this is what I consider the very important part. I want to test this and make sure that it works. I know beginning inventory plus purchases less ending inventory gives you cost of goods sold. So let's just test it all out. Does beginning inventory, all right, and then let's see, does this minus this plus this equal net purchases? If I put it in my calculator, I can see that it does in fact equal 286,350. And then for cost of goods sold, I can say, does that equal beginning inventory plus net purchases minus ending inventory? Does that equal cost of goods sold? Yes. So I've tested it and I know that it's true, so it does work. So the answer to this problem is purchases equals 282,900. Now, are there shorter ways to work this? Yes. Some of you guys will be able to look at this and just say, hey, I need to solve for purchases and I know this and I can figure it out by saying this. That's fine. But if it doesn't come naturally to you, this is a way that will always work for you to stick it into your formula. And since you only had one unknown, that one unknown was net purchases, then you can work backwards. And I say one unknown, you could say, well, I didn't know net purchases or purchases. And that's true, but by knowing the definition of what net purchases means, purchases minus purchase returns and allowances plus freight in, you really only had one unknown that you had to solve for. Then you could just back into your purchases. All right, so how does this work for other problems? This works because a lot of times you'll be given revenues, some expenses, and a net income, and you may be asked to solve for a particular expense. Well, again, since you know everything else, you can back into it and solve for that. Or you may be given beginning capital and withdrawals and owner investments and ending capital, and you may be asked to solve for owner investments. So it can work in lots of different ways. And again, the reason that accounting problems typically ask us to do this is because they don't want to know that you've memorized the formulas. They want to know that you understand the relationships between these numbers. And that's just one of the best ways that they can ask you to make sure that you understand how these numbers fit together and how they relate to each other. So let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.